Hello all and welcome to my channel. If you're new here, please hit the subscribe button and the notification bell. I'm giving this little experiment of mine 30 days to either become a success that I continue with or a learning experience that I toss out the window. A big part of the overall trajectory of this is you doing what you're doing right now and listening, and I appreciate you for that. I am 18 followers deep, which is more than I had at the time of my last recording, and any growth that I achieve before I start promoting myself is happy growth that I'm very excited to have. So thank you for doing what you're doing and being here listening. That does a lot for me, and I appreciate you for validating this little thing that I'm doing. Anyway, my name is Ashley Robin, and I am a full-time artist with a special interest in the dark side of human psychology. In this series, we take a look at prominent happenings related to true crime for each date in history. There will be days where I share stories about well-known serial killers or highly publicized unsolved cases, but most of the time I do gravitate towards the ones I've heard little to nothing about myself when researching, so you're bound to learn something here that you did not know. Today's case is a legend set in the Wild West over 150 years ago. As such, I feel like it would be kind of more appropriate to drop the ambient rain sounds I've been using for the last couple episodes and maybe add a crackling fire. Maybe some outdoor night nature sounds with it. What do you think? We're trying to create a vibe here. So anyway, thank you for joining me for the 6th episode of True Crime Time Hop. Warning, the following content may be disturbing to some audiences. If you might be triggered by talk of violence, murder, dead bodies, etc., please exit now and prioritize your mental health. Viewer discretion is advised. Originally from London, Julia Bulette and her family moved to the States in the 1830s, where they first lived in New Orleans. Then they spent a short time in Cali before they finally settled in Virginia City, Nevada in 1859. Julia grew up to be a tall, slim beauty with big dark eyes and a witty sense of humor. In this boomtown, she was well revered among the miners, earning herself the title of the Darling of the Comstock. She was a lady of the night, but she worked as an independent contractor rather than working in a brothel under someone else, as was common among sex workers at that time. The area was flooded with men looking to get rich mining silver, and Julia's popularity among them grew and grew. She was beloved among the townsfolk, especially her miners and her firefighters, even being made an honorary firefighter herself for the local fire brigade, Virginia Engine Company No. 1. She joined them in a parade once, as she wore a fire suit dress they gave her and a fire helmet, and she clutched a trumpet filled with roses they gave her. P.S. I know at times it's gonna sound like I'm just straight up reading, and that's because I kind of am. I started to write out like a full-blown script, so this is gonna wind up being my shortest video most likely, but that's because I have all of my thoughts organized. I'm having to interrupt myself a lot less, and the first few were just kind of chaotic and thrown together, and I was just reading off of shorthand notes versus actually typing out exactly what I want to say. So yes, I am reading, but I'm reading my own words, so I hope that's okay. I would have a hard time remembering everything that I want to tell you about this stuff in an organized way if I was to just draw from memory, because it's a new one every day for me, so bear with me. But yeah, back to the story. Julia wasn't just popular for the services she provided under her red light. She contributed to society in many ways. She helped to care for the sick as waves of influenza and typhoid hit Virginia City. She was said to have helped the firefighters sometimes with actual fire calls, though I don't know how much of that is factual versus just lore. But in general, she was just a really good and kind person who kept it pretty damn classy considering her line of work. She only gave the nicest and most affluent men her attention, so everywhere she went in this rough town, she'd find men doing their best to be chivalrous, hoping to stay in her good graces. Tragically, on this day in 1867, Julia would see her final sunset. She told her neighbor that night that she was going to be meeting up with a man for work, and in the morning her French maid found her partially nude and lying diagonally across the bed. Unfortunately, she was not peacefully sleeping, but disheveled and deceased. She had been beaten, bludgeoned with a piece of firewood, and strangled. Pieces of tree bark were still in her hair, along with a dent on her head. Her home was left in nearly perfect condition, aside from one vase that was knocked over during the altercation. The sheets were flat, as though nobody had spent any time on that bed with her at all. It looked like she was just kind of tossed on there after the fact. And she had defensive wounds, so you could tell by looking at her body that she did fight for her life. It was noted that she was missing jewelry and furs she was known to have had, and so the investigation resolved that the motive of the murder was a robbery gone wrong. It was a rainy, gray morning when the many mourners of the community gathered to say their goodbyes. Leading the way was the fire department, followed by a horse-drawn carriage that carried her body. Next, the Nevada militia band shuffled, playing "The Girl I Left Behind." It is said that her funeral procession also included another 16 carriages after that. Black wreaths and streamers were hung from balconies along the route as the remains of the 35-year-old made their way. The church would not allow her to rest in the cemetery due to her profession, and she had to be buried in the Virginia hills where criminals were often buried. It is said that they honored her by entombing her in a beautiful silver casket. Virginia City was outraged to think that someone among them had cut her life short, and the miners sought answers. They wanted someone to blame, and they wanted someone to pay for taking away their beloved soiled dove, as she was often referred. Before long, it was discovered that a French drifter named John Millian had items of Julia's, and he'd also stolen some of her jewelry. That was enough evidence for the people of Virginia City, as well as the courts, to find him guilty of Julia Bulette's murder. His hanging was such a big deal for the grieving community that schools and businesses closed so everyone could attend and watch him receive justice. Engineers and architects are said to have worked together to create large stage-like gallows to hang him for all to see the spectacle. And fun fact, Mark Twain was there in the crowd to witness the execution that day. He was a journalist at the time and wrote about the experience in a letter from Virginia City, published in the Chicago Republican, May 31st of 1868. On April 24th, 1868, the scorned Frenchman made his way through the masses to his death. He proclaimed his innocence right up to the bitter end. And I mean, they never really had evidence that he had a hand in the murder. They had evidence of the robbery, obviously, but I don't know. Do you think that they could have possibly got the wrong guy? At this day and age, I don't know if that would have been enough evidence to get any kind of death penalty for the perpetrator, even if they really did do that. But, I don't know. I guess I'm just playing devil's advocate. What do you guys think? Any feedback that you have, please feel free to leave it below. Otherwise, you can leave whichever emoji represents your favorite animal in the comment section, because I'm trying to find a way to get some comments. Trying to do what I can to stimulate the algorithm over here. Tonight I will probably also be starting to tag different genres or whatever. I haven't done any kind of hashtags on YouTube, so all of this is experimental. I would love to see that I tried something like that, or creating shorts, or going live, and then all of a sudden my subscriber count jumps up in the hundreds. I am optimistic. I'm ready to try a lot of different things because I have a lot less people that know me watching, so takes a lot of pressure off. Anyway, have a great night and thank you for listening.